Welcome everybody. Happy Friday. First off and foremost, I have Hugh Tomaseo here. How's everything going, bud?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's Friday. It's a new year. I'm excited to talk some 49ers football.
Exactly. It's almost 4 p.m. Pacific time, so if you have not yet grabbed a beer, go ahead and do so, or a drink of your choice. It could be a water. It could be something on the rocks. Just grab something, sit here with us, and enjoy this conversation. We're going to go ahead and pick it up here as far as Robert Saleh. He picks up another head coaching interview, and that's with the New York Jets. I'm not sure how interested he would be in them and how interested they are in him, considering that it was kind of later than the four other teams. So basically, the one team to yet request to interview Robert Saleh is the Houston Texans. That complete dumpster fire that Deshaun Watson is unfortunately a part of. And the other news today is Fred Warner was selected to the All-Pro team. We've been calling him All-Pro Fred all season long.
Yes,
And now we can
sir.
officially say it. We don't basically look at ourselves and be like, we've been calling him this, it didn't happen. No, it actually happened. He is All-Pro Fred. The NFL decided to tell us what we've been seeing with our eyes all season is true. What do you got to say about Fred Warner?
Man, what there's so much to say about Fred Warner. I mean, let's start with this. We've been saying all pro Fred since, the last offseason. And even if the league didn't recognize that, we did. Like the 49er faithful knew that this was all pro talent we were watching on the field. So congratulations to Fred for finally getting that. It's kind of a nice blow when it comes to 49ers linebackers after Patrick Willis just wasn't named a finalist. It's nice to see some more love go to a 49ers linebacker after we had to deal with that. And it just made me reflect on how blessed we have been as 49er fans from the linebacker position because, for over a decade, we've had Patrick Willis, all-pro talent. Then we had Navarro Bowman, all-pro talent. Now we have Fred Warner, all-pro talent. It's just been, a plethora of excitement at the linebacker position. And we've always had someone that, is top three in the league. So Fred's the best coverage linebacker in the league, no question. He's, up there with anyone in terms of how he's able to play the run game, tackling out in space. Maybe you could put a Darius Leonard as like a little better tackler, or maybe someone else as a little better this or that. But he's far and away the best coverage linebacker, and he's elite at every other spot and is arguably the best at pretty much anything else along with any other linebacker. So there's no question that Fred Warner is all pro in my opinion.
Yeah, I look at it as he may not have the sack count that Devin White has of Tampa Bay. Well, they're asked to do different things. It's because Fred Warner is elite in pass coverage and Devin White is not. There's a reason why he's getting much more blitz opportunities. So when I look at my Mike linebacker, I don't look at him as someone that's going to have 9 sacks like Devin White. It's a luxury of, say, Jamal Adams, for instance. If your position player can do that for you when they're normally not asked that at their position, well then great. That, find a role for that because you should have them do that. But is that what his position is designed for? Not really. So that's what I like about Fred Warner's game is I think he could only get better because if he has that pass coverage down to the T already, well, I feel like from playing the game myself, not from a middle linebacker role, but just from seeing, guys around me that play that role is you can develop more of a pass rushing game from the middle linebacker spot faster than you could develop a coverage from that spot. So that's what I like about Fred Warner, as well as he had a lesser missed tackle rate than Devin White. And that just shows how smart he is. He's an athletic middle linebacker. He transferred from being a safety in college. He is able to diagnose the play with his mind and react that way, not using his pure athleticism to try and make a play. And that's where you see some of these athletic linebackers that transition from safety not really have success in the league because they're just using their athleticism and not their brain. But Fred Warner put the two together, and you could see that he's under a 6% missed tackle percentage. I actually tweeted that out earlier today. Is him and Dre Greenlaw are the only two NFC middle linebacking duo to have less than a 5.4 missed tackle percentage. I believe when I looked that up, Devin White was about 8% or 9%. He was somewhere there. So, yeah, I'm bringing up Devin White because people want to talk about Devin White. So that's why I'm bringing him up. He missed the Pro Bowl. He missed the All-Pro. He's a great player. But he's just not there yet on what the position is asked for.
Yeah, and I think to go along with that too is it's a luxury. Like if your middle linebacker can blitz, like that's cool and all, but that's not the priority of the position by any means. I would much rather have a guy that can go back and cover at more of an elite level than rush the passer. And I mean, chances are any linebacker can run after the quarterback if you need to send them. You cannot say that about coverage for linebackers in the NFL. And when you have someone like Fred, you know he can rush the passer.
Right.
But if he's playing close to the line and he's faking a blitz, he can just as easily backpedal into coverage, easy interception on like a 3-step drop of a quarterback that just tries to get it over the middle quickly. And with the 49ers, if we're going to put context into it, they don't need him to blitz because when that front four is healthy, they get pressure as is. So it's a different system as well. And Fred Warner could blitz when need be. Exactly. When you have a healthy 49ers D-line, there's no need. And because he's the best, coverage middle linebacker in the league, play him, at that spot where it's going to benefit the defense a lot more. And he was used in the blitz packages a little more this year because obviously they had so much injury along the defensive line. But Nick's 100% right. When you have that healthy front four for the Niners, and whatever it might look like next year when you have Nick Bosa, just leave Fred Warner to do what he does best, and that defense is going to flourish.
Yeah, and also, not to take away from what Devin White did as a blitzer, just kind of stating the obvious here, he had Sue, he had Vita Vea, he had one hand, what's his name, that came from the Giants, he had Shaquille Barrett. That's 4 solid, above-average, good players to help him get to the quarterback when he is a blitzer. And
absolutely,
like Mauricio echoed here, is that Simmons is a perfect example of someone who's athletic, but in the NFL, it's as a middle linebacker, you need more than just the athleticism. How many Texas routes are we going to run on Isaiah Simmons? And so Fred Warner, he has it all. I don't think he's quite there as a Navarro Bowman blitzer, but when you look at that D-line, if healthy, you don't need him to blitz that often. And if it is healthy next season and he does blitz often, he's going to have a year like he did before, where it was highly effective in 2019. I believe in 2019 he had 3 sacks or so on the season compared to getting 1 week 17. It's just that personnel has to do with a lot when it comes to your sack count, but he's the best coverage middle linebacker in the grade, and that should not be overlooked because it is so pivotal for that middle of the field to be locked up. When you look at the middle of the field, that's where Jimmy Garoppolo, our own quarterback, throws the damn football 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So when you have a Fred Warner, oh my God, he would hate playing against Fred Warner.
Oh, it would be a nightmare.
Well,
between that, he would throw a sweep to Deebo Samuel every play. Everything would be behind the line of scrimmage. And one way I'm thinking about it too in comparison is every 49er fan loves when K'Wan Williams comes on the blitz because it feels like it's almost like 100% success rate. Like every time he does, he's getting to the quarterback. It's a big play. He's disrupting it in some way. But you can only run that. You can only pull that out of your sleeve a couple times a game. And every so often, you can't run that every single time. It'll be kind of like Fred Warner in that instance with how they use him as a pass rusher when they bring him on a blitz. You disguise it and you use it, on a third down, in a critical point in the game later on, maybe once or twice a game. But like K'Wan, you want to leave Fred Warner in coverage on pass plays way more often than not. But it's a luxury to be able to blitz them and surprise the defense with that ace in the hole when needed.
Absolutely, because when Fred Warner's blitzing, the offensive line could see that and pick it up. Compared to if K1's blitzing, they're
Hmm.
not looking that far out to the boundary, so they're not really going to see K1. That's more on the quarterback to pick him up and call it out to the offensive line. So
Hmm.
if you're playing a quarterback that does not pick that up, or if K1 disguises it perfectly, well, you would prefer to have K1 blitzing than Fred Warner just because it's
100%.
100% more disguisable.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So now that we gave Fred Warner his due, he probably deserves an extra 20 minutes or so, maybe even a whole episode to him because he's that great of a player. But we're going to go ahead and just transition from that. It's the unlikely situation from Matthew Stafford or Deshaun Watson becoming a 49er. This is what everybody wants to talk about. This is all I see on the timeline. During the regular season, how sad was it? Instead of like let's get Jimmy back. It's can we get Matthew Stafford, please? It was more that. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, we're gonna run it back 2021, Jimmy, everything. No, it's like, can we have Matthew, please? Detroit, you guys suck. Can we have
Hmm.
Matthew, please? And same thing with Deshaun Watson. They suck, and it seems like they're not trying to get better. Their big GM hire kind of looked like Adam Gase PR stint there with the eyes. I'm not sure what's going on with that. So I don't think it's very practical to get my hopes up to say we're going to get Matthew Stafford or Deshaun Watson, just because there's just so many atmospheres, so many verticals that you got to go through,
Hmm.
and that's why I wanted to talk about it. It's we should focus on the draft, not not spend time on these two. And I'll go ahead and let you kick it off.
Yeah, when it comes to those two, so for those that follow me, they know my whole family bleeds Clemson orange. So Deshaun coming out of the draft, I've never wanted a player more. I would love Deshaun Watson to be on this team. However, I don't see it happening. Uh, for one, I will say as much as I love Deshaun, and everyone could completely understand why he would want out of the Houston organization after he put up an incredible year. Like honestly, he'd be an MVP consideration if he had any talent around him.
Definitely.
But his team let him down, and there's that clip of J.J. Watt telling him like, "Hey, like we should have had 11 wins. I can't believe we only got 4. Like we're sorry we let you down," which they did.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still kind of a tough look when Deshaun is 1 year removed from signing an extension, and then he's not publicly said he wants a trade, but there's been a lot of rumblings coming from his camp. So the organization isn't going to be happy about that. Granted, I don't blame Deshaun one bit, but it can be perceived as a bit of an interesting look from his part. But to be fair, he hasn't come out and said anything publicly. It's just the rumors going around. And from the Texans' perspective, yeah, they don't have a lot of talent around him. They notoriously have no draft picks to work with. They are still looking for a coach, but you can win much more easily with an elite quarterback and less depth than more depth and no quarterback. I mean, Rodgers for, all those years with Mike McCarthy was a big example of that. Russell Wilson, I mean, yeah, he's got Metcalf and Lockett, but he hasn't had a defense either, and they were fighting for the number 1 seed there at the end. Brady for a lot of years in New England, he didn't have a lot of pieces. So when you have that franchise transcendent quarterback, you can still find ways to win. And Houston was in a lot of games this year. I mean, yeah, the scores were high because Deshaun kept them in it, even though the defense sucked, but they could have easily turned out a 500 season. So I think the Texans aren't going to move on from Deshaun, mostly because of the fact that they have their elite quarterback. And if you get 2 or 3 pieces to shore up that defense or the right coach for that team, it is way easier to jump to success than if you have, a lot of depth around but a big hole at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I would say the quarterback position is the hardest one to find because it's the most pivotal one to find.
Hmm.
You can get around uh, with other positions that aren't as solid or that aren't as good, that aren't all pros, that aren't pro bowlers. But to have that quarterback as an all pro, as an MVP candidate, you cannot trade him. You're not trading him.
Hmm.
And with that offensive line, Yeah, they have their left tackle stapled there, but you could get around with lesser talent there. They have some wide receiver. I don't think they're going to bring back Fuller, but
Mm-mm.
you could find receivers in round 3, round 4, which where they have their picks since they don't have round 1 and 2. And then with the defensive side, you have J.J. Watt, who's a staple piece. We'll see if they decide to save 17 million or if they want to keep him because he's the he's the Deshaun Watson of their defense.
Mm-mm.
They can get the ball rolling pretty quick. It just depends the moves on the GM on what he makes, and that's why Deshaun Watson wanted a voice, and that's why he's using the I'm on vacation to not talk to you. It's basically I'm going to put you guys in timeout because you didn't give me what I wanted, but he's not going to ask for a trade because he's Deshaun. When you're a badass player like Deshaun Watson, you feel like you could compete with any team
Mm-hmm.
because it's true.
Yeah.
You put Patrick Mahomes on the Jags, they're probably 10-6 and in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I mean, Deshaun Watson was up 24-0 on the Chiefs until his defense just decided to, fold at the eventual Super Bowl MVP. Like he can compete with anyone, even with lesser talent. I mean, he did have DeAndre Hopkins back then and whatnot. The Texans were a better team last year than they were this year. But no, you're absolutely right. If you have an elite quarterback, you can compete with anyone. And again, the Texans did compete with some good teams. I mean, that's a much better division than I think it gets credit for. The Colts were great this year, one of the best defenses in the league. The Titans had the 2,000-yard rusher in Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill's very underrated. That's a pretty good division that he's competing in, and he kept a lot of those games close because he put the team on his back. So while the Texans are going to want to keep him because they have this elite quarterback, which will help them, get to glory very, very quickly if they just add the right pieces or the right coach around him. It could be a year-to-year thing. Next, if they hire the right coach and even with their limited picks, they draft one or two key defensive guys and maybe make a splash free agent signing or two, that could easily be a playoff team because you have an elite quarterback. And the Texans know that. And they've got to make him happy. Because, they have a lot of leverage in keeping Deshaun Watson, but you also don't want to piss him off. Keep your guy happy and say, hey, we're building for you. We're building around you. Let him have a say in the GM search and the head coaching search. Like, put egos aside. This is the face of your franchise. This is the reason you are relevant. Do it. Like, let this man be in the front office to an extent. Let him be like a LeBron James in a sense. We all know LeBron runs every team he goes to. Let Deshaun Watson have a say in what happens in that Texans organization.
So I noticed you didn't bring up Jacksonville, but Jacksonville did have some competitive games. They had a 1,000-yard rookie rusher. They have DJ Chark. They have Josh Allen, who missed quite a bit this year. They have C.J. Henderson, who missed quite a bit this year. And remember, they were competitive against the Packers in Lambeau. They upset the Colts week 1. It seemed like they just went straight tank mode once they benched Minshew because I think Minshew's better quarterback than people give him credit for.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good, but it's just Jacksonville's that bad of a play calling team. Offensively and defensively, that puts them in bad spots, and that's the same thing that Deshaun Watson had in Houston. It was bad play calling, bad personnel assignment, bad personnel movement, and it just went downhill from there. They could end up having the next offensive guru as their OC, to where Deshaun Watson could get his team right back in the playoffs next season because we've seen the Colts, they're okay if they don't have a quarterback. Their defense could be solid, but if they don't have a quarterback, they're okay. They got in the playoffs this year because they got an upgrade with Phillip Rivers, although I don't think he could necessarily do the same next year because he has a good year, then a terrible year, and then a decent year, and then a good year again. But there's opportunity there for Houston and for them to basically give up a guy who's on a Hall of Fame path at such a young age. It's ludicrous. You're not going to do that, and it's crazy because we're saying this, but yet from what I heard, Watson wanted Eric Bieniemy to be at least talked to about the head coach, and they haven't even brought him in. So Watson said, "Okay, you're not going to listen to me. I'm on vacation. Peace out."
Yeah.
But still, they could end up making a decent hire. They get a play caller, or they get someone who could toughen up that defense, because Deshaun Watson's going to put up points. If they get someone to tighten up that defense, then they could be right back into the playoffs. And that's why I'm saying it's going to be unlikely for the 49ers to make this happen. Would they gladly give up all those picks? Absolutely. They'll do that in a heartbeat, because they could lose all those picks and still be a Super Bowl contender for the next 7 years.
And all those picks are going to be, if they're giving up first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, chances are those first-round picks are going to be the 32nd pick in the draft, the 31st or 32nd pick in the draft most of those years anyway. You're not missing out much. If you get Deshaun Watson, a lot of those draft picks are going to be at the back end of every round anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I wanted to have this discussion a bit. It's not going to happen, at least not this season. I think what you said, year to year, is perfect. I think it will be year to year, because if they botch this hire and the Texans have another 4-12 season, he could ask for it next season.
Absolutely.
He very could ask for that trade. And then with Matthew Stafford, he's a little on the older side. He hasn't played in an NFC championship game. He hasn't won a playoff game. But that's just because they've done a terrible job managing that franchise. It's not Matthew Stafford. And
it's
they
the
understand that. Yeah, they understand that as an organization. So with the new GM to come in, with the new head coach to come in, what's the easiest route to success?
Keeping Matthew Stafford.
Exactly, keeping Matthew Stafford. You're not going to get rid of the guy and then go 4-12, and then another season at 5-11, and then a 7-9 year, and then you finally make the playoffs, maybe year 4. No, Matthew Stafford expedites that journey. If you want to rebuild a bit, you could take a quarterback where they're sitting right now. They could possibly land Zach Wilson.
There's so many holes on that Lions team, though, and they're looking for a head coach too, and our guy Robert Saleh might end up there. But what head coach wants to go to a team that has one of the worst defenses in the league? Plus, let's say they trade Stafford. Yeah, you got all these picks now from it, but not only do you have one of the worst defenses, you also have a rookie quarterback. And that rookie quarterback could jump in and have a Burrow season or a Herbert season. But you also saw how much Herbert and Burrow were let down by their deficiencies, where Burrow was sacked like 900 times and ended up getting hurt and missing the rest of the year. Herbert won the last couple of games. Yeah, and his defense was atrocious too. Like, Herbert's defense wasn't great either, and his special teams really let him down too, because the Chargers have a lot of holes. So I don't know, if you're the Lions, are you going to get the best head coaching candidate? Are you going to get the Bieniemy or the Saleh if you're trading away your franchise quarterback? Are they going to want to not only have to reconstruct this horrible defense, but also have to groom and mentor a rookie quarterback who is going to get destroyed by all these other deficiencies on the team? So that, I think, kind of the same principle that we were talking about for Watson kind of applies to the Lions, where they do have the 7th pick where you can use a quarterback and get Stafford's replacement. But if you want to keep Stafford, which the Lions should, because he's a very underrated and a very good quarterback, the 7th pick is great, because there's going to be there's a good chance there's at least 3 quarterbacks taken in front of you, and Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields, which means, you could get a Jamar Chase. You could get, a Caleb Farley. You could get, who knows? Maybe Sewell drops to 7. Or they trade up a few spots for Sewell. You can get elite talent in this stacked draft class to build around Stafford and this new coach and shore up this god-awful defense. But if you already fired your coach and you're looking for a new one, and you trade Stafford, those picks would be cool, but you're basically saying we are completely rebuilding and this is going to be a multi-year process. It would be the 2017 49ers. And, Bieniemy and Saleh are great, but I don't know if they can have a Shanahan 3-year turnaround.
Yeah, and this is why I don't see Stafford as an option for the 49ers. It's who's in his division. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to put up points on the board. It's the Chicago Bears. Well, you could say whatever they want. I know some people have different opinions about Trubisky than myself. But their defense with Khalil Mack, they're going to be good for years to come.
They're always competitive.
And then with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, I think they had a down year, but if they shore up that defense, they could be competitive once again. So it's a tough division, and to expect to get rid of Matthew Stafford and stay competitive and not go 4-12, it's unrealistic. That's why you keep Matthew Stafford, because if you bring in somebody with that first round pick that's a quarterback, you're asking for him to fail, basically. Hey, we don't have the pieces for you. We're in a competitive division. They have the same amount of teams make the playoffs as the NFC West. They're right up there with the NFC West. Because who's the worst team in their divisions? Detroit, that's about it. But if you go top 3, Green Bay, Chicago, Minnesota, that competes with 49ers, Seattle, and the Rams. The only difference is Cardinals are way better than the Lions. So you cannot move on from Matthew Stafford, considering the cost of the quarterbacks nowadays as well. His contract's not that much. His contract's not $40 million.
And he's only 32. Like, Matthew Stafford, it feels like he's been in the league forever. Like, when was he drafted? 2009, I think, first overall? Somewhere around there. Like, it feels like he's way older than he is, but he's only
2008.
Yeah, somewhere around that area. And, like, he feels way older than he is, but, like, he's only 32. And if there's one position that's not on special teams that can, go to near 40 years old, it's quarterback. And, there's the whole misconception that Stafford's injury prone when in reality he's only missed less than 10 games in the last decade. He does usually have lingering injury issues, which, those could eventually catch up to him as he gets older. But at the end of the day, like you're saying, you've got a veteran quarterback who, if he was on a good team, he would easily be regarded as, a top 5 quarterback if the Lions would win, because he makes Mahomes plays and doesn't get the Mahomes press.
And ever since Aaron Rodgers stated that, every week it's been like, oh, look, Matthew Stafford did it. Aaron Rodgers right. Oh, Matthew Stafford did it again. Look, Aaron, it's Mahomes like, yeah, he's been that his whole entire career, but he's been on the Lions his whole entire career. That's why no one's, put it on the stage that it should be on, because they're not a very good organization. And while I could say, oh, since they're not a very good organization, they're going to move on from him. No, they're going to keep him because it's an obvious thing to do. Not everyone's Bill O'Brien. There was only one out there, and we should have took advantage when we had the opportunity and give them a Solomon Thomas for Deshaun Watson.
Oh my gosh. That I can't even imagine. I would buy that jersey in a heartbeat.
Oh, everybody would, but I think Kyle Madsen tweeted out the issue is Nick Mullins wears number 4, so that's obviously not going to work.
Very true. They'd have to come to some sort of agreement there. You can't upset BDN.
Yeah, it's in Shanahan would be like, all right, Nick, change your number or you're off this team.
It might not even come to changing number with the play we saw this last year.
Oh my God. I think they do bring him back in some facet. It's probably just going to be a veteran in the quarterback room. It's so weird calling him a veteran, but Shanahan said he's the smartest guy in the room. Sometimes you can be the smartest position player, but that doesn't mean you're the best player. How many NFL coaches do we see that were backup quarterbacks in the league? So, he could be on that same path there.
I'm really interested to see Nick Mullins' recovery as well, because as any baseball fan knows, Tommy John surgery keeps you out for at least an entire season. I'm curious if that looks any different from a football perspective as a quarterback. It might be the same amount of time. I would assume it's probably about the same. Like, obviously throwing a baseball from a pitcher's perspective is such a unique motion. And, you might be able to work around that throwing the football a little better. But I'm curious to see how the recovery is from a football standpoint as compared to baseball players getting Tommy John.
Yeah, like I think I said this earlier. He's gonna miss at least 6 weeks. I don't know what it's like for NFL quarterback, so he could come sooner than I would expect. But 100%, he's not going to be back by week 6.
No shot.
And so with Trent Williams, seems like he's prepared to hit free agency. I know he said the 49ers are his number one choice, that a team's got to really convince him that they're a better situation than the 49ers. But when that money's on the table, Trent Williams strikes me as the guy that's going to take it. He doesn't strike me as the guy to where it's like, oh, you guys are offering me $3 million per year, but I really love Kyle. No, he's going to take it. He's going to take it. So, with Trent, does it concern you that he's going to sign somewhere else? Because we've seen what has happened with the 49ers. They kind of lowball, and then once they have to, they'll, match. But this is a different situation. This isn't the Kittle situation. They don't have Trent Williams' rights. They can't tag him. Trent Williams could give the 49ers an opportunity to match, but he does not have to. He could just be like, I'm tired of negotiating with you guys. I'm not even going to give you a final offer. I'm just going to sign with this guy. So, and especially after the season he just had. It wasn't fun. Mixing COVID makes it less fun. Didn't even get to experience the Bay. Zero. He just stayed in an Airbnb, a rental, or a hotel, wherever he decided to stay. I don't know where he lived, but he didn't even get to experience. So it was just it's just a weird situation, to where it does concern me a bit. Knowing the 49ers front office tendencies, if they'll be able to give him the market value. Does that concern you at all?
A little bit. I would have liked for them to get this all worked out, a couple weeks ago. I do think at the end of the day, Trent Williams' comments about I'm able to hit the open market now and whatnot, but this is the place I want to be. I think those are both just bargaining chips for him. He says that the Niners are his number one priority, so that way other teams have to sell super high to him. Because he's going to tell them, no, I want to be with the Niners, but what can you do for me? So they're going to have to bring their best offer. I do think there's truth to Trent Williams' comments where he's saying, I love Shanahan. I want to be here with the Niners. But he's going to drive up the price as much as he can with other teams, bring that back to Lynch and Parag and Shanny and say, hey, this is the best offer I got back out on the open market. I want to be here, but you have to match it. So I'm with you that the lowballing from this front office does make me nervous. I do think they understand that Trent Williams is priority A, B, and C this offseason. There are guys like Verrett and K1 that you want to keep, and extending Fred Warner, but keeping Trent Williams and locking up, I'm going to say, the best left tackle in football, even if he was snubbed of all pro, the best left tackle in football for at least 4 or 5 years. So I'm not too concerned. It did benefit him because he didn't get the extension before the season. He wanted to prove his worth on the open market, which good for him. I'm all for players getting paid. So I'm glad he did that. And he played like an all pro this year, even if he wasn't recognized as it, but it's all just business. He says the Niners are his first choice, so other teams have to come with their best offer. I think he takes those back to the Niners and say, I would love to be here, but you got to match it. But I think if the Niners and 3 other teams are all offering the same dollar amount, I think he sticks with the 49ers, but they can't lowball him. That's the part I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about Trent, picking up and leaving. I think he does want to stay. I just hope the 49ers prioritize him as much as the rest of us do.
Yeah, I believe he stays. I believe he gets that extension, but I feel like it's something we should talk about because this is serious. He's hitting the open market. You could have a team like Jacksonville who has a boatload of money. I don't know if there's any chance he would want to sign there or just give them a time of day to offer him something outrageous, but yeah, it does concern me. Because say if Jacksonville comes in and says, hey, we'll give you $28 million to protect Trevor Lawrence. And the 49ers walk in with 20.
Yeah.
Like, do I think Jacksonville does that? No. But would they be smart to? Hell yeah. You invest. Go ahead.
I might be naive in believing this just because, like, you know, I am a fan at the end of the day and I want to see him stick with the Niners. But, you know, winning does have its place. He's in year 11, I think, 11 or 12. He's getting up there. And as we were just saying with quarterbacks, you know, they can go into their late 30s. Offensive tackles can, but as we saw with Joe Staley, his health and his neck issues and, you know, those problems deteriorated really quickly for him and his career ended sooner than he wanted it to. So Trent Williams is getting up there in age. Money absolutely talks, but he even said himself, you know, this healthy 49ers team is as good as anyone in the league and can compete for a Super Bowl. We just got derailed by injuries this entire season and COVID and, you know, everything that went wrong did. So I would like to think, and again, maybe I'm naive, I would like to think that being on a team that he knows has the talent to win when healthy, he said it himself with the Niners, that could play a role if the Niners, you know, are able to almost match the highest offers. Like, we'll go with the Jaguars example, like you said. They could offer $28 million. Maybe the Niners only offer 23 because that's all they can afford, and they'll say, hey, we can give you less, but that's only because we're keeping this a Super Bowl roster. So hopefully that would play a role with him. I do think winning for veterans like that, it matters to a certain extent. I don't know how much it matters with Trent, but he did say himself, you know, this roster healthy can really compete. So I would like to think that the Niners could coerce him a little bit. But again, don't lowball a disrespectful amount with that same proposition of we're keeping Super Bowl talent around you. You still have to pay the man a respectful amount of money for being the best at his position in the NFL.
Yeah. He ultimately he has to re-sign for this team because they're going to be forced to. If they don't, now that 12th overall pick that everybody wanted a quarterback for, you might have to use it on a left tackle. Or you might have to go pay somebody $18 million that's not really worth it just because you lost Trent Williams. So I believe there's ultimately something that gets done, but him going on to the open market concerns me, knowing the track record of not willing to pay people in the early stages of negotiations. And that's why it failed in week 17. It's the early stages. What they should do is be talking to Trent Williams every single day right now during the playoffs. Every single day. Check up, even if it's just like, hey, you up? Even if it's just something as simple as that, just like shoot the man a text or something, see how he's doing, because he's a great football player, and I think where they have the advantage is, like what you said, is winning. This is going to be his last contract, you'd figure. He's up there, he's getting up there in age, and at a left tackle, your knees, you know, you can't really play left tackle like Andrew Whitworth. That guy's a unicorn, how long he's playing in the NFL as a left tackle. So I'm not going to bank Trent Williams to be the next Andrew Whitworth when it's basically one guy who's done it in the past decade. So I think that winning has an advantage. The familiar mindset with Kyle Shanahan, knowing the playbook, not having to pick up a whole new playbook, learning a new playbook. He knows what he has with Kyle Shanahan, and he knows the personnel they have. I also believe going 3-3 in the division helps in negotiations. When you want to talk about a winning culture, they could have gone 4-2 if they had more competent quarterback play. They had Seattle on the ropes there. So there is that aspect of the game to where it's not like, hey, yeah, we're winners, and we're just saying that because we went to the Super Bowl last year. No, they do have it there. They had a 6-10 season. They went 3-3 in the division. They're playing a last place schedule next year, and you went 3-3 on a down year with only 6 starters from your initial 53 to last the whole season. 6 starters. And you still went 3-3 in one of the best divisions, in the NFC.
And they could have easily been 5-1 in that division. I mean, you mentioned the last game against Seattle. I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but if they competent quarterback play week 1 as well, easily 5-1 in that division.
Yeah, that's true. They got boat race in Seattle, and that's the only loss to where we can't really say, oh, if they would have done this, different. No, it's 5-1. Yeah, that could have happened. They should have beat Arizona week 1. I'm glad you brought that up because you're looking at 5-1 in the division. They would have been in the playoffs at 8-8. They would have made the playoffs at 8-8 if they had competent quarterback play, and they need to figure out that quarterback position because I think Trent Williams is going to be interested in that. How can you not as left tackle?
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm saying they need to hit up his line every day saying, hey, you up? We called about Matthew Stafford again today. This is what we're doing. We talked to Zach Wilson today. Like, you got to keep him up on that because he's a left tackle. Hand in hand with quarterback play. If you get someone like a Zach Wilson, Trent Williams may want that even. Did I say Zach Williams? Zach Wilson.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. He may want that even more because now, as far as all pros go, Hall of Fame resume, he's almost there. I don't think he's quite there yet. He needs to play a few more years, but he's for sure on his way to the Hall of Fame. If he gets someone that can move around in the pocket, that helps out his Hall of Fame resume because now, if he would have gave up a sack on a play, now you have a Zach Wilson back there that moved around, or a Trey Lance back there, or Justin Fields that moved around and extended the play. Now, guess what? He only gave up a pressure and not a sack.
Exactly. Yeah, a good quarterback and a mobile quarterback makes everybody's life easier on the entire offense. That will absolutely play into his decision. You know, regardless of what us fans feel about the 49ers quarterback room, all 3 of them are statues back there. The only time they move their feet is when they have happy feet in the pocket, which then, you know, an inaccurate throw comes. It's not the good kind of moving feet where, I mean, as we saw with Josh Allen this year, he just happily, you know, strolled out to his right whenever he needed to, just to extend the play another second or two so his receivers could get a little more separation, find the open man 15, 20 yards downfield. So, you know, with a rookie, I feel like it could go either way because, you know, Trent Williams, if you tell him, hey, we're trading up for, you know, Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, we're going to go all in on this rookie this year, he might be kind of skeptical about that. He's like, you know, I want to win now. I don't know if a rookie's going to be able to do it. But also, you know, to your point, if you're saying, hey, we're going to get a kid who's mobile, and you saw what Justin Herbert did this year, we believe, I don't know, Zach Wilson can come in and do that this year. And with Super Bowl talent like you and our defense around him, unlike the Chargers, we can do something really quickly with this guy. So I think, again, like I said with Deshaun Watson, keep this guy in the loop. This guy deserves to be hearing what the front office wants to do moving forward, what the plan is for the immediate future, so he knows what he's getting himself into and why he has a shot at winning a championship if he does have to sacrifice some money to stay.
So this is what I'd notice about Trent Williams is I'm glad you brought up the young age. I don't think he's shying away from the young age because when Kendrick Bourne false positive before that Green Bay game, who were the close contacts? It was Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel.
Wow, yeah, great point.
And then when I look at this past game where Trent Williams missed out, who was he sitting in the middle of? To his right was Deebo Samuel, to his left was Brandon Ayuk.
He believes in this wide receiver core. He believes in this offense.
Yeah, so he has a great relationship with the young guys in this offense. And that's why if Kyle Shanahan wants a rookie quarterback, I think he may be pumped about it because he already created some type of relationship with the younger guys on the team to where he had close contacts with them. They're buddies. I believe it was they were close contact because I think it was, from if I remember correctly, they were at like Kendrick Bourne's house. So he has friends on this team, and that's why I think he'd be open-minded to a young guy. And since we're talking about retaining Trent Williams, we'll get into the next topic here. They have a ton of free agents. Restricted, unrestricted, I believe that number's up to 40 now. What do you think is more important? Is the player retainment or the coach retainment, where you have Bob Saleh out there taking head coaching jobs to where he's probably going to take McDaniels with him? LaFleur is going to be an interesting name to see what happens with him. And it's not Matt LaFleur. It's Mike LaFleur, before people get in my mentions again. Why is he going to leave Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay? Dude, I'm talking about his brother. Chill out.
Yeah.
So we have that circumstance going on, and to where Saleh could bring D'Amico Ryans if they don't give him the DC job. Who knows if he has a close relationship with Chris Kocurek and they work something out to come over. Maybe Kocerek's the defensive coordinator over there. It's interesting. So what do you think is more important for this team moving forward this year, next year? Is it going to be the player retainment and sign as many players as you need right now, like the Jason Verretts, the Kerry Hyders, the Kella Witherspoons, the Kendrick Bournes, or is it keeping this coaching staff as close together as possible?
I'm all about player retainment, and this argument's going to come specifically to the context of the 49ers. They're never going to lose their offensive coordinator because it's the head coach. You really only need to worry about, besides position groups, of course. The offensive side of the ball, I'll stay there for a second. Even if McDaniels leaves, I believe that Shanahan he's putting his imprint on every single position group in this offense, whether it's the wide receivers or the run game or the offensive line or whatever. Shanahan knows what's going on in all of them, and his coaching staff is going to be one of the top places that any coordinator, any position coach would want to come to. So he'll have his pick of the litter of a new run game coordinator if need be, and he'll pick a guy that can run his system. On the defensive side, and this is where I get more into in the context of the 49ers and their specific situation, for me, it's all about player retainment. Robert Saleh right now is a top head coaching candidate, and he looks great, and Niner fans love him, and he did a great job. That was not the consensus the first couple years when, the talent level for the 49ers was bad those first 2 years on defense. And now when Robert Saleh had some talent, he had a healthy Richard Sherman, he had Nick Bosa, he had, Fred Warner when he came into his own, he got Dre Greenlaw, he got all these pieces. Yeah, now he can coach because he has legitimate NFL players. I believe there's a lot of coaches out there that can work with good players, or else they wouldn't be in the NFL. Yeah, there are some coaches that shouldn't be here, but there's more coaches than not that when you give them the good players and the right players, and if their scheme fits, they're going to be fine. And the only time that I really worry about coaches shifting around and whether they are, a good coordinator or not is when they move to head coach. I think if you've made it as a coordinator in the NFL, you belong there, and if you have good players, you'll be fine. The only time I worry about those same coordinators is if they move to a head coaching role. Adam Gase was phenomenal with Peyton Manning, and then as a head coach, he's been abysmal. So, we have our head coach in Shanahan. We have our offense in Shanahan. When he loses guys, even if it's defensive coordinator, he's going to have the pick of the litter of guys that want to come to that team because there's so much talent there. And Shanahan's a great head coach, and everybody gushes about, working with him. So I'm all about keeping the right players. If you keep the right players, you can find a coach that will work with them and get them where they need to be. You can bring in the greatest coach ever, and if he's playing with guys with the same athleticism as me, then he's going to look bad, like with Robert Saleh when he first got here.
Don't sell yourself short. Come on. Don't do that. Don't sell yourself short.
I was an intramurals legend in college, so, too bad there's not any footage of that, but take my word for it.
Maybe. So you're making the argument for player retainment. Okay. That's probably the way I would lean as well. But For the sake of the audience, I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to go
Let's
against
do
what
it.
I believe in, and I'm going to do the coach retainment. Because when I look at the 49ers, they've been one of the best young developing team in the NFL. They've gotten so many undrafted free agents to play big minutes for them. I guess if we're talking NBA language, big snaps for them.
Yeah.
And we've had 5th-round picks, 6th-round picks, and I'm talking about Drake Greenlaw. For instance, D'Amico Ryans. If he leaves with Saleh, if he doesn't get the DC with the 49ers, he could get the DC with Saleh. So if he leaves, I think that hurts a ton more than having Akello Weatherspoon and Kerry Hyder leave. Because when I look at that is Al-Shaair. He's looked good. He's stepped up. He's looking like a talented player, and he's probably the Sam linebacker next season. Drake Greenlaw, he was a 5th-round pick. Fred Warner, he was a 3rd-round pick, turned All-Pro. So that's one person I look at. And then the building the confidence back up with Akello Witherspoon, building it back up with Jason Verrett to go out there and play. And then on the defensive line, you've had Kerry Hyder look very well when he didn't look good in Dallas last season. Armstead finally had turned it around. He was playing out of position this year, and I think that's why he looked so bad. I think if he's able to go back into a 3-tech on pass rushing situations, he can reach 10 sacks again. We will see. It just wasn't in for him this year. Javon Kinlaw has took beautiful strides as a rookie. You have Kevin Givens, undrafted guys, looking fantastic. DJ Jones was a 6th-round pick who looks really well. Someone's probably going to offer him more money than the 49ers. So I could keep going and going. And Brunskill, what he's done, developing George Kittle to the tight end he's been doing. So I think a lot of it has to do with the coaching. The talent is undeniable. Like you said, they're coaching because in the NFL because they know what they're doing. I figured they could replace it. Well, a lot of these players are in the NFL because they're good at football. They're good at football. So that's why they're in the NFL. And you're going to get more players that are also good at football. But as long as you have that core staff there continuing to develop and train, then you could get the next Drake Greenlaw. You could get the next DJ Jones. You could get the next Kevin Givens because you know what to look for and you know what hit last time. And I think that'll bode well for this team. Emmanuel Mosley at the cornerback position. It seems like he's always the guy left out, but when he's in, he does pretty well. He's a physical player. He's a starter in this league. So when I look at this coaching staff, like my good friend Jamar Taylor, he didn't really have good years before this season. He didn't. Found his way onto the 49ers, and he was playing good football for them. Is it just because he turned a switch, or was the coaching staff putting him in good situations on the defensive side? So I think a lot of that has to do with it is finding a way to put these players in good situations. I'm focusing so much on the defense because I feel like that's where they're going to take a bigger hit with these coaching staff because Saleh can or may not get a coaching job, a head coach somewhere. He could end up back with Kyle Shanahan. But I think someone has to be like, no one's that stupid to not give him an offer.
No. And the thing about Saleh too, while we're sticking there, is he was a great coordinator, and for all the reasons you said, coaching absolutely does matter. But different coaches are going to bring different things to the table too. In Saleh's 4 years, the Niners ranked like worse than 20th 3 out of the 4 years in takeaways. Besides 2019, when they had that elite pass rush, they have not been taking away the football. He's very safe. He ran that cover 3 all the time. You had Jimmy Ward and Tart back there, not really taking the ball away, but they were, as my good buddy Matt Barr says, the safest safeties in the league. Yeah. If you bring in a different coach, what's he going to bring out of those players? What if they go from a cover 3 to a cover 2? A little more risky, maybe get some more turnovers out of that. But you're going to potentially give up more plays. So the players' talent is going to stay the same. The coaches are, whether the players are good or not, the coaches can help bring that out of them. And then the schemes are really going to dictate it. But I see what you're saying for sure. I would almost throw, how does the front office fit into that argument in terms of players, coaches, or front office? Because Adam Peters is going to be a giant loss for the 49ers if he does not come back.
More than Saleh, right?
Arguably, yeah. I would say yes. Adam Peters would be a bigger loss than Robert Saleh. And maybe that's because all of us are already, we've already kind of emotionally accepted the fact that Robert Saleh is going to be a head coach somewhere. Right. Adam Peters, I think we're still holding out hope. He deserves to be a general manager somewhere, far and away. He deserves to be a GM for a team. I think we're all just holding out hope that he stays with the 49ers because he would be a bigger loss than Saleh.
Yeah, I just hope he loves the San Jose area so much that there's no way he wants to go to Carolina, right? Like, I hear Denver's cool, but he doesn't like Denver. He doesn't like it. He couldn't wait to get out of there after spending 8 years in Denver. Or else he would have signed the contract already.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to convince myself into it.
Hey, convince me too, because I really don't want to see him leave.
No, yeah. From what I understand, he's been doing most of the picks where the 49ers have hit compared to John Lynch. So if some of you are listening and they're like, Hugh, shut up. What do you mean? John Lynch is, the GOAT. It's he's our GM. Adam Peters, yeah, cool. Bye, Scout Boy. Like, no, he's not Scout Boy. The guy is the real deal. And from what Hugh and I understand, he's been hitting a lot on his picks. I can't see a scenario to where it's like, hey, John, you want that competitive spirit? Well, president of football operations. There you go. Because Parag is vice president of football operations. Al Guido is president, not of operations, of football. He's just president, and that's more to do with the team as far as the community outreach, not necessarily with the personnel. So from what I see is the personnel president of football operations is available. If they could find a way to transition John to that would work out fantastic. It's just dependent on how is it going to look around the football world. Is it going to look as a demotion or is it going to look as a promotion? And that's the sticky situation here. I love how we went from player retainment to coach retainment to now we're talking front office retainment. It's fantastic.
Yes, sir. Hey, man, that's good chemistry. That's why we're on here together.
Exactly. So make sure everybody listen to Blow the Whistle podcast. Go ahead and plug it in, Hugh, because you were fantastic. Everybody, I'm going to speak for everybody here. They loved you for the past 58 minutes on here. And go ahead and plug it real quick so people could understand or they know where to find you if they want to hear more of you, which you guys will.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want to see more snark from me personally on Twitter, at Hugh Tomasello, you can give me a follow. I'd love to interact with you guys. My podcast is Blow the Whistle. So anything you listen to your podcasts on, just blow the whistle. You'll see mine and my friend Luke's cartoon faces on there. Everything Bay Area sports, it's Niners, also Warriors, Giants, everything else like that. You can also follow that podcast account on Twitter at Blow the Whistle P, and that's where you can get links to anywhere to listen and all the news and updates about our show.
Yeah, and you'll probably hear Luke talk about his wealth. Ask him about his shoe game.
Guaranteed.
Ask him about his skyline view of Chicago as well. And Hugh just gets to be the best friend and enjoys his best friend talking about all of that great stuff. But hey, when you go to Chicago, you got a skyline view too, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because the podcast is 50-50 with Luke and I mean, his skyline apartment's going to be 50-50 too. It's in the contract.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. Make sure you go follow his podcast page, give him a listen. All Bay Area stuff. It's fantastic, even though I am repping the Mavericks here. But hey, go Warriors tonight because I can't stand the Clippers, and
Yes,
especially the Morris brothers. I know they only got one of them there, but still can't stand them. They tried to step on Luka's ankle last year in the playoffs. No one could tell me otherwise. You have a whole court
Yeah, man. If Steph doesn't bring home his third MVP this year, as I'm hoping, I'm all in on Luka MVP. I love to see that man take over. He was so fun in the bubble. I was sad to see him go down with the Mavs to the Clippers. I wanted to see them make a little more of a run. So I'm all about the Mavs, man. They're fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's if anyone's wondering, like, dude, how are you all Bay Area and a Mavs fan? My parents took a trip to El Paso, Texas. I ended up being born in El Paso, Texas during that stay, and being a young child, the Warriors weren't very good yet. And so I knew I was born in Texas, saw a 7-foot German just draining a bunch of threes on TV because they were getting the national broadcasts with Steve Nash on that team, Michael Finley on that team. And so just Dirk draining threes, that's what did it for me.
Man, if there's ever a player to grow up loving, it's Dirk. I don't know how anyone could hate that guy. And his 2011 run is one of the coolest basketball memories I have of something that wasn't part of my team in the Warriors. That 2011 finals victory over the Heat was legendary.
Yeah, but for me, the Warriors are my family's team. So when they had those 5 straight years in the finals, I was absolutely pulling for the Warriors each and every year. I love Steph Curry, love Klay Thompson. Can't wait to see them back on the court together. Hopefully sooner than all of us expect.
Hey, man, if you ever want to get on here and talk that 2007 We Believe team over the Mavericks, I would love to chop it up about that.
I was so mad. My dad was in my face about it the whole time because, you know, I was a kid then. I was still living with my parents watching it, and he was just in my face all about it. The 1 seed getting knocked out by the 8 seed, the best record in the NBA that year. I hate it every time, but hey, I learned to accept it because I have no bad feelings against the Warriors. I like them. We'll see.
I like the Mavs. Hey, for each other, we'll root for them until they play each other.
Exactly. Then we'll just ignore each other for that day.
Exactly.
Pretend it didn't happen. Pretend it didn't. Look away.
Perfect.
All right, guys. I know we got into basketball a little bit here at the end. If you like both sports, I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.